Jess.
And today we are back with another episode of What About It? Today we decided, our last episode we did was really fun and it was based on just reading Reddit stories and reacting. So we're gonna do the same kind of thing today, except today's episode is gonna be reading Reddit travel stories. And I feel like we have our fair share of our own travel horror stories.
We do. So I feel like we could probably start with like a personal story and then go into like Reddit stories.
Yeah.
Just to like have some fun with it.
Just some fun with it. I feel like who doesn't have a bad travel story? So I feel like these are gonna be crazy.
Yeah.
But before we get into it, we need to do our little segment. So if you're new here, we do a segment every single week. What is your like of the week?
My like of the week is I'm going to see my family this weekend, so I'm super excited for that. I don't know why, but I really love packing, like
really?
for trips. Like I have my list made, like in my notes, like things for travel, and it's like this whole list of things, like my toothbrush, hairbrush. I don't know why I enjoy doing that, but like just being prepared makes me so happy. Like
Just
I
knowing
need a
you're
plan.
not forgetting anything.
I need a plan, a solid one. So yeah, that's my like of the week. What's your like?
Oh, my like. Okay, my like and dislike is like conjoined. My like is I just got more tattoos kind of impulsively, but that's also my dislike because I haven't gotten any on my back, and so like sleeping is like uncomfortable. Wearing a bra at work the other day, it was just scratching it all day. So
Tell her about the hack.
Oh, I had like a glittery bra on, and because the back strap was like on top of the one, I literally stuffed paper towel into my back.
It's so smart though. Like, and it helped, didn't it?
Yeah, and then it's like stopped moving around, but I was like, oh my god. So that's my like and dislike. It's like an annoying, and I'm not supposed to work out, so
Ran for 65 minutes yesterday.
well.
Oh well. My dislike of the week is gonna be driving. Yeah, driving. Because as much as I do enjoy driving, I don't enjoy like long distance driving. So the trip in itself is like, I don't want to have to do the driving because where I'm going, it's gonna be like 4 or 5 hour drive wherever I'm going, and then back, and then my parents are split, so I'm going to see both of them, so I have to drive back and forth across the province. So it's just gonna be like a whole bunch of like, I can already feel the headache from like driving too much. So that's my dislike of the week.
Do you usually drive the whole way?
I drive the whole way. My boyfriend does not like driving at all, especially long distance.
Really? You're DD?
I am DD. If it's me and him like together doing long distance driving, I'm going driving. So I think that's why I'm just already defeated.
That's a dislike for me too.
Yeah. We always get stuck as chauffeur.
And let's just jump right into this, honestly.
Okay.
So,
Do you
okay,
want to
let's start.
with like a personal?
Yeah.
Okay. You go first.
You go first. I need to think about mine. Like,
Okay,
I already know
I'll go.
yours.
Okay, my worst travel story. So this one is really special because actually the first time I ever flew was last April. It's my first ever trip like outside of like, I'm from Nova Scotia, so like I only ever stayed in there and like traveled to PEI once on like a car. This was like a super special trip. So first time on an airplane, we were going to Dominican. So we flew from Halifax. No, we didn't. We drew. I don't even remember my own horror story. Okay, so we flew from Charlottetown to Toronto, and we were supposed to go from Toronto, have an hour layover, and then go to Dominican straight from there. We were supposed to land after like an hour and a half in Toronto, and then I checked the weather before we left. Actually, it was supposed to be thunder and lightning showers, storms.
Perfect.
So I was like, oh, are they really gonna fly us out? And this was like, no, they'd cancel it if they really, like, if it was gonna be that bad. No, they didn't. So I already knew what was happening, like, before I got on the plane. We get on the plane, it's great, it's starting to sprinkle a little bit in Charlottetown. I'm like, okay, whatever, it's fine. Fly off, great takeoff, it's amazing. Scary, but amazing.
Wait, are you a window or an aisle person?
I am a window person.
Okay.
I don't want to be brushed by every time someone walks by me. I don't like that. Like, it's just, I don't want to be touched, okay? I want the window seat, I want to see the sunset, I want to see the sunrise, okay? That's what I like. Are you a window or just...
I'm an aisle.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, for the purpose of using the bathroom easy, yes. But if you're sitting beside, like, someone you know, it's, like, different, right? So, why the aisle? Just because of that?
I feel, like, stuck when I'm by the window.
Yeah? Okay, yeah, fair enough. We were supposed to land within, like, I think an hour and 45 minutes. It was, like, an going on 2 hours at this point. And even though you have your airplane mode on your phone, it kept updating. Like I was watching our like location Bitmoji on the app. It would like circle around and then go back and then circle around. And I was like, oh, it must be glitching because like we don't actually have Wi-Fi up here, right? And it happened for like 45 minutes, like 45 minutes over the time that we were supposed to land. So we're like, hey, what the heck's happening? Like we're supposed to board our next flight in like 15 minutes. Like this is like crazy. And then it got to the point where other people were realizing like, holy, like this has like been going on for way too long. I'm looking at the window, I can hear the rain hitting the plane even though we're so high up, right? It was just insane noise on the plane. And I roll up my little window and I'm looking outside, and all of a sudden I'm seeing like flashes in the distance, but it was so foggy outside that like you couldn't even see past like the plane wings, but like the little lights on the plane wings, you could see them flashing. So that's what I thought it was, and it probably was at first. But I'm looking out, and then I'm looking out and I'm watching, and all of a sudden this big crash of purple lightning strikes the plane wing outside my window. I'm looking outside. I'm like, this is it. I'm like, please God, like, don't let this be the way I die. And like, it was so funny because the night before I was like watching all these videos of like plane crashes and stuff, and I'm like, oh my God, like this is literally gonna happen. This is gonna be like the reason I die. Like something told me to never get on that plane, and I got on that plane.
You were gonna cancel. You were gonna back out so many times because of that video.
I was gonna back out, and I should have, because we should have died. Okay. So anyways, we get struck by lightning, and then the turbulence from probably getting struck by lightning and then everything after that was like insane. And I was flying with my boyfriend's family and grandparents, and even they said they've been on thousands of flights and they've never experienced turbulence that bad in their entire life, like ever. So like even hearing from them, I was like, okay, so I'm not crazy and like over dramatic. Like this was like actually
your first ever flight.
It was so bad, and like the amount of shaking, and like we dropped down like so fast. Like it felt like we dropped like 1,000 feet in like 5 seconds. Like it was like the gut drop was insane. Like 2 minutes later, the captain comes on. He's like, "This is your captain speaking. If you can't tell, we have a little bit of turbulence." Yeah, you don't say. So he's telling us all about that, and he's like, obviously, you know, if you have a connecting flight, you're probably gonna miss it. We're trying to circle around. They're saying it's not safe to land because it's thunder and lightning storm. Obviously, we just got struck by lightning. Anyways, like half an hour goes by, I'm still circling around because they're trying to like figure out where to land. They're like, okay, keep in mind we're supposed to land in Toronto. This is your captain speaking. We're gonna have to redirect the flight and land in Cleveland, Ohio. At this point, it's like 10:25 and our flight was at like 9:45. So we're like, hey, we're just screwed now. So we're sitting on the plane. We sit there for 50 minutes on the ground. They won't let us off the plane. They won't, like, their AC's not working, like nothing. We're just sitting there crammed in this plane, hot, nothing running, waiting for takeoff. So about almost an hour passes by. Then they're like, all right, so we're gonna fly you guys to Toronto now, Pearson Airport. So they fly us out. We get to Pearson. We land. Sunshine and rainbows. Great. Okay. We land the plane, it's all amazing, and then we go in through customs and all that stuff, and then everyone's lining up for the phone, right? Everyone's trying to call like customer service or like whatever it is to like get your flight figured out because like we missed our flight. We're on the phone for probably like 2 hours trying to figure out our next flight. There's nothing from Toronto to Dominican for like 4 days. So we're like, great. Our best option was to fly from Toronto to Montreal, and then Montreal for the night. We'd stay there, miss a day in Dominican, and then fly from Montreal to Dominican. That happened. It was fine. We get to Montreal. We get there. It's an ice storm. Everything is frozen solid. The roads, the like telephone poles, like wires, everything frozen with like icicles hanging off of it. It was insane.
This is crazy. That's in April.
It was so weird. And it was like the weirdest thing. It was like such a severe, like power went out at our hotel and everything, like generators came on and everything. So when we got dropped off at the airport and we had to get a taxi to our hotel that we had to book last minute, our taxi driver, French, didn't understand us, whatever, fine, we made do. He was driving like a maniac. There's these little like pillar things on the side of the highway to like keep you in, like even if you hit it, you're gonna screw up your car. But like he was almost hitting them to the point that like my boyfriend's mom was like, whoa, what are you doing? And I'm like, Deanna, don't yell at him. Like, I don't want him to get mad and like kick us out on the highway in Montreal. Like, I don't know where the heck we are. We get to the hotel, we spend the night, power goes out, we wake up the next morning, we're like, hey, let's get out of here. So go back to the place, I think it was like 7 a.m. was our flight, and then we get to Dominican. Worst crash landing pretty much. Those were like boom, boom. Like I have a video of it. Like everyone was like screaming again. It was like so fun. Needless to say, it was like the scariest thing having to get on like multiple planes again after that lightning strike. So I'm like, how much worse can it get? Like how worse can it get?
And then tell them about the ceiling collapsing.
Oh my god. I'm sure I have a video. If I send it to you, can you link it?
Yeah, I will.
It's like a 2-second clip, but like we were at our resort for like maybe 2 days, and I'm like going through the lobby to get some breakfast, like 9 a.m. ready to go get some martinis at the water bar. I'm like, great. So we walk through the lobby. I hear like a waterfall. I'm like, ooh, new addition? Like I turn around the corner and I look up and there's like no ceiling, a whole chunk of the ceiling gone, pouring water through this pipe all through this like beautiful lobby, and they're all like bringing over huge buckets of like where they put in like the towels and stuff and just like holding it under, but it's like falling from everywhere, so it's like unmanageable. So yeah, anyways, that was it. And then I think it was like that for the rest of our trip.
Your lobby's just flooded.
It was literally flooding, and like they had like wet floor signs. I'm like, I don't think you need those. Like I think it's pretty obvious.
This isn't a pool, by the way. This is your lobby.
No swimming allowed. That was my worst travel story. I don't think much worse happened after that. It was mostly just the flight, and then, you know, the ceiling collapsing wasn't the worst part, right?
That is insane. My story could not top that. Like, I feel like I haven't had like horror stories. I've just had like bad moments on the plane.
Yeah.
Or like getting to the plane. The worst one was me and my ex. We were coming home from, I think it was Vegas, and we missed our connecting flight, and he wanted to come home for Christmas Day. I wanted to come home after Christmas. I wanted to like spend Christmas in Vegas, but he wanted to come home on Christmas Day. So this is just a recipe for disaster. As is. We were on our way back, one of our flights got delayed, and then we end up missing another flight. So it's like Christmas Eve, like the middle of the night. We're in the airport, our flight is now delayed, we have to like change it. There's a line of probably, I'm not even kidding, 600 people in the airport because everyone's like missed their flights. Flights are canceled due to weather delays. So we were standing there, and then the airport shut off the lights. All the workers went home. So like they literally left. 600 people, lights shut off, all the food restaurants are closed, they gave nobody any answers, people were like ignoring you if you'd ask a question, and the solution to re-getting your flight was to stand in line and go on the phone. And there were 3 phones, probably 5 phones to like reschedule, and 600 people sitting there with their luggage. No solution, no idea how to get home. Like searching up, we're like, can we go anywhere else? Our only flights to PEI in like 4 days, and we are stuck in Montreal at this point. We're like, okay, maybe we could fly to this random spot or this random spot, and like we didn't want to get a hotel, so we stood up for like 7 hours. We never made it to the phone, and then last minute we saw this flight on the screen come up, and it was like a random spot. It was Bathurst, New Brunswick, leaving in like 45 minutes. We were like, you know what? Screw it. Like we had never, because we were like calculating. We booked the flight last minute. We paid out of pocket, and we're sprinting. We're like, we need to catch this flight. We get to the plane. It's a little like propeller plane. It's so rickety. It's like the tiniest plane I've ever seen. We got on it. We got it. We got home. We made it. We made it for Christmas. It was insane. But that was like, oh, and while I was standing in line, so I'd been standing in that line for hours, and I had went to the bathroom like 2 hours ago. Oh, I noticed I have toilet paper stuck to my freaking shoe. That entire time I've been in line, people have been staring down at my feet because I have toilet paper stuck to my shoe in the airport. The next sad flight was when I went to Nashville. We went to land, so they dipped down, and then they dip back up. They're like, oh, we can't land yet. So we're sideways circling for 20 minutes getting ready to land, and I had been talking to this random man who was sitting next to me the entire flight. So like couple hours, we've just been chatting, and then so now we're sideways, and I look at him, I go, I don't feel good. And Haley's next to me, she just ordered a beer, so like she's drinking a beer, so she's not
sideways plane. Yeah, I'll get a beer, please.
She got it
about to throw up.
I'm like literally getting so nauseous, and I look at him, I'm like, I'm gonna throw up. So he passes me this paper bag. We're sideways in the air. I'm throwing up into this bag. Haley's like gagging because seeing someone else throw up makes you want to throw up. And then after I'm done, he just looks at me and goes, you don't need to be embarrassed. It's okay. I was like, oh, perfect.
Like,
and then as we're like getting ready to land again, I'm like, oh my god, this is the worst. Getting to your destination after throwing up and holding your puke in a bag.
Like, what do you do with it? Like,
I just had to hold it. I just had to hold it until we got off the plane.
Imagine dropping it in the aisle.
But yeah, so that's probably those.
Well, you'd think they'd come by with a cart where you could just throw it in, like.
Well, this was kind of right when we're getting ready to land. They don't usually provide service at landing.
That's bad.
All right, so let's get into the stories.
I was at the St. Louis airport trying to get back to California. Big thunderstorms kept delaying the flight. After about 4 hours of waiting, we finally started boarding. Just as I settled into my seat, the gate agent came running onto the plane, yelling that everyone needed to leave their personal items and get off the plane immediately. There was a tornado.
No.
Imagine if you were in a tornado in a plane. Like, has that ever happened? Like, how would that even, like, go down?
I
don't want to think about it. We all ran up the jetway, and the terminal was completely empty by the time we got there, except for a police officer who was directing everyone to the tornado shelter, which was the bathrooms.
Stop it.
Mm-hmm. When we got in there, it was jam-packed with men, shoulder to shoulder.
What?
I'm like, did they, like, put them men and women's and women's? Like, I squeezed in and waited an hour or so before we were all clear. A bunch of very uncomfortable guys in silence. In the meantime, there was the occasional flush, and I shuddered at the thought of being so close to the toilets. After that, more flight delays, ended up leaving after midnight and getting stranded in Houston the rest of the night, but eventually made it home the next day.
I'm sorry, how do you just carry on after that?
Yeah, I just hung out in Houston.
Tornado shelter in the bathroom. I love how she was just in there with all men in silence.
I know, it didn't say if it was a girl or a guy, though.
Okay,
so
definitely a guy.
I'm like, no way they put all the men and women in together like that closely.
But that would actually be like, okay, imagine you're like traveling with your partner.
I know.
I would not want to be separated.
Oh, no, I would not do that. No.
Especially during a tornado. Like, I'd need to be holding hands. I'd be like,
no, if we're gonna die, I'm dying with my boyfriend. Like, I'm dying with a bunch of
strange men.
The next story, this one's a little shorter. It's just like a paragraph. Paris. I don't think I need much more to be said. I literally got kicked out of a store because of my limited knowledge of French failed me after a couple of minutes of being forced to talk to the owner. Makes me glad I at least didn't get into any life-threatening situations.
I'm sorry, that's so random because I so did not have that experience.
I chose that one specifically, even though it was a shorter one, because you went to Paris. So I was like, maybe you have something to say about that, or like maybe your experience was different. Like, how was it like with the language barriers in Paris?
I feel like most people could
judging you?
speak limited amounts of English from my point of view. I didn't feel like any judgment. I felt like people were obviously like, haha, like your accent's terrible, but I feel like there was like a higher level of respect that you like took the effort to like understand their language. And like, even if you were just like, bonjour, like, even if you said that before you started talking English to them, there's like respect, if that makes sense. I didn't ever feel like I'd be kicked out of a store because I wasn't French.
I'm like, where were you in? Like a designer store? Like, it's like disrespectful to like not know French.
Like, imagine someone coming into the restaurant we work at,
like,
and you being
French.
rude to them and kicking them out because they don't speak English.
Hello, you mean? Like, no.
Hello?
Yeah, so couldn't be me. When I was young. It's gonna be a good story when they start with When I was young, my parents were in the process of splitting up when my dad proposed a trip to Disney World with us.
Perfect timing.
Yup, his kids. That seemed cool. Then, the morning of, he picked us up with this woman we had never seen before and her infant child. Turns out that was our new half-brother and my dad's mistress. We were then trapped in the car with this woman we hated and forced to go to Disney World with her. We would fight over who had to sit next to her on a ride and get yelled at for fighting over it. We would squirm away from her in pictures, etc. We were dragged to Disney World many times after that with his new family. Every trip was horrible. I hate Disney World. I cannot think of a place in the entire world I would dislike vacationing more than Disney World. That would be trauma invoking. Yep.
That would just be a shock. Like, the way why did he have to just do Disney? I feel like that's one of the absolute worst ways to introduce a new family member.
Oh my god. I mean, you might think, oh, let's go on a trip together. It's good. No. Not them squirming away in the pictures on the rides. Like, like, I can imagine the faces they were making. I would just put those in the scrapbook. Like,
that's gonna automatically make them not like his new
first
girl.
trip to Disney. I was in Morocco with my parents and they started fighting. People were looking, it was weird. Then my mom stormed off 5 minutes before the boat left to Spain, where our hotel was. We couldn't just leave her, so we had to wait at the dock for multiple hours waiting for her to come back. Then we had to sit there all night because the boats didn't go during the night. Imagine you're on a cruise ship that goes from like spot to spot on vacation, and you only have so many hours in the daytime, or sometimes they stay overnight, but you have to be back like well
by
before
a certain time where you're gonna miss your boat.
And the fact that the boat waited for them is like insane. I've heard so many stories about boats not waiting for people. And like, have you ever seen like the people videotaping from the top of the boat, people running down the docks like with their suitcases and stuff? I'm like, could never be me. No. I'm way too over prepared for that. This is the worst off. Just the first sentence is horrid. Bitten by a, they say, black widow on my first day in Borneo. The paralysis started in my hands where I was bitten and just traveled up and got really scary when it started affecting my breathing. The clinic and then the ER gave me paracetamol, which didn't quite deal with the problem at hand. At some point it stopped getting worse, labored breathing for a day or two, couldn't use my arm fully within 2 days, whereas sensation returned in the course of a few months. My face is still a little numb a year and a half later from getting bit by a spider. Could you imagine? Like, there's
imagine feeling your body like getting paralyzed in some random tropical place.
No. See, that's the one thing that keeps me from wanting to go to like Peru or something. I feel like they got some like weird stuff there that I just don't want to be bitten by. I feel like even if you like try and avoid it by like staying out of like grassy areas or something, I don't know, like the deserts, like I feel like they still come into your bedroom and stuff. Like, I've heard so many stories of people having like spiders in their bedrooms where they're staying in like Europe and stuff. So
I'm like literally horrified at the thought.
It's gross. And I'm a big ick for like, I hate spiders and like stuff like that. So like, I never go to Australia. I would.
See, I would for sure. But like the thought of a giant like tarantula like this. Oh
no, we don't do that. I think,
you know what's the scariest thing is like
hairy.
No, the weirdest thing is like going from here where you know like what every bug is to going somewhere and it's like you'd see something that like does not exist here and being like, what is that, and is it poisonous?
I know.
That'd be my thing. I'm like, what am I looking at right now?
One thing I liked about Nova Scotia was we had like one of the biggest zoos in the Maritimes. I'm so sad because like they didn't even give a warning. That I know like the lady who owns it, she's so old. I think her husband has cancer. Oakland. They're shut down. What? They're not opening this year.
What, forever?
Forever, yeah. I don't know, because I remember like my family knew like the owners really good and they were trying to get us to take their zoo. They were gonna give it to us. We didn't have to buy it. They were gonna give us the zoo. It was literally gonna be like, we bought a zoo, like the movie. So I was like, great. And like, I think we were about to do it and then they realized, okay, let's be like realistic here. We can't own a zoo. But I just remember going in there and they would have the most exotic things, like these pythons this big, like that wide, and like tarantulas this big and like hairy little fat legs on them. And you can't even see those anymore here. That was the only place where you could see like stuff like that from around the world. And like, yeah, now you can't. I don't know what they did with those though. Like, where are they?
Like, where's the giraffe? Where's the llama? I remember the llama.
They just let them go free. And the llama, they would just spit out of nowheres. You'd have to like run away.
That didn't happen to me. I loved that llama. I remember that. I went there and I just remember we just stood there and I just hugged the llama. Aww. Like, I literally was like,
I remember I would like hug their long necks and then they'd like slowly turn to me like this and their eyes would like go like this. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go away now because I feel like you're gonna do something nasty that I don't want to be here for. Yeah, I love the zoo. It's so fun. What a good heartfelt way to end off.
What a great way to end off the shutting down zoo. Next week, I think we're gonna do one more of these like story episodes and then we'll move on to something a little more, like a little more, you know, helpful. And for travel disasters, that's what it's about.